Hello and welcome to the OK Takes podcast. I am Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow capo, Edward. As of 7:07 p.m. West Coast time, look, you and I, we both ignored a stat that we should never have. Kyler Murray was 8-0 at AT&T Stadium headed into the matchup against the Cowboys, and it was very dumb of us. But I do think there's a reason why, and there's a valid reason why we ignored it.
Yeah, that's just a slip up on our part. Those are the advanced metrics we need to be looking at before we make picks in games.
I mean, I'm not an excuse guy, but come on. He's 8-0 in AT&T Stadium headed into the game because he played against guys who are worried about pre-calc and failing their driver test.
Yeah, I was like, what? I think it was 5-0 was high school games, probably like state championships and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a little bit different than guys who pretty much have their whole families and their families' lives on the line.
Yeah. A little more important.
I thought so. But nonetheless, big win for the Cardinals. They won 25-22 against the Cowboys. And we do have a bit of ref fodder to go over. So where are we standing on the fumble that wasn't a fumble? So DeMarcus Lawrence forced, quote unquote, a fumble on the Cowboys or on the Arizona Cardinals final drive. Now there is some contention on this one because it was not called.
I'm kind of a wimp on this one. I see angles that makes me like, yeah, it was. And then I see angles that makes me like, no, it wasn't. So I just stick with on the field. But on my first glance, it was a fumble.
Okay. I would say I agree. It is strange. I mean, it was really bang bang call. It goes either way with the eye test, like just watching it in real life speed. But to say you're going to just side with the refs on that one, I mean, that's like putting trust in Martha Stewart, who says she has good news on stock.
Yeah, it's probably not smart, especially recently, to put your stock in the refs and back the refs on calls like this. But it's just one of those where it's like it's too close. Like, I don't want to be like, oh my God, it was definitely, because I see like angles that show me two different things. Like one angle makes me think it's not a fumble, one angle makes me think it is a fumble. So I'm just going to be a neutral party on this one.
Mm-hmm. I got to go fumble on this one. I got to go fumble. I'm going to go with the forearm wasn't down. I mean, because it was this weird thing where I think being more athletic actually hurt Edmonds. I think it was the guy who fumbled it because he had like a little extra hop. Yeah. And during that extra hop, it looked like he was down, but he wasn't down.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a close call. Like, I think Pat McAfee posted an angle that was really good that made me think it is a fumble. And then like I saw more angles on TV that made me think it's not. But yeah, I think Chase Edmonds kind of dug himself in a hole on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just be less athletic, I guess, is the only takeaway from that.
Be less athletic, and then your fumbles or non-fumbles will be easier to decide.
Mm-hmm. But I also think it's worth noting that there was a play before where Edmonds was clearly in bounds. Clearly out of bounds, but was called inbounds. So Mike McCarthy had to burn a timeout, and that's the reason why he wasn't able to challenge the play. So Cowboys kind of got screwed at the end. It was tough. It was tough for them. I mean, you can't ignore it.
Yeah,
that it was very, very controversial. But at the same time, though, they did have a crazy comeback going. It looked like the cliff collapse would continue, and then Dak was victim to a peanut punch from Simmons.
Yeah, I was going to say that fourth quarter, I definitely thought the Cowboys were going to come back. I was back to our cliff collapse takes on the last show, and I was like, oh, we're going to be running it back. But Dak, and the rest was history.
Because you could be really mad about the refs, but at the same time, you got to look at your own team and what they did if you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big moment in the game. And I mean, you could say it didn't necessarily decide the game, but you kind of could say it did decide the game.
No, yeah, the game. No, there are plays. So like, games aren't decided by one play, but there's 3 or 4 plays that impact the entire course of the game,
Yeah, for sure.
and that was one of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can be pissed at the refs, but Dak kind of choked at the end. It's fair to say he choked, even though he had a pretty solid game. But then you got to look at the run game, and I was saying it on previous episode or last Sunday's recap with Zeke, and how I'm not sold after the incredible win against Washington football team. I just wasn't sold all the way on the Cowboys because Zeke has not been that guy. And he followed up another performance last week by going 9 of 16.
Yeah, this was not an performance. This was bad. Like, Dak Prescott was the team's leading rusher with 20 yards. Like, that kind of tells you all you need to know.
So that's what I'm worried about with the Cowboys, is that there's any situation you could think of, you need a run game. And for the previous times where I've been worried about them was the first time they squared off against Washington football team, where it was like, if you have Zeke going crazy, at least doing something, managing to get first downs, picking up enough to keep drives moving, then they wouldn't have nearly suffered a crazy comeback from the Washington football team. And then this go around, it was like, man, they could have controlled the ball more. And I feel like they could have had more things develop, but it just wasn't. This offense just isn't there. Like, they put up 22 points. Kudos to them. But there are stretches where you're like, this team's going to get their asses kicked in the playoffs, it feels like.
Yeah, like, if they can't, I mean, I feel like this kind of goes without saying, but if they can't figure out the run game, it's kind of going to force Dak Prescott to have to throw the ball 50 times. And if Dak Prescott has to throw the ball 50 times, we've seen him be a little too inconsistent for that to be a style of play that they can really hats on and thrive in. I just don't think that's going to work out. I think they're going to have to figure out a way to get the run game going. And if they can't, it's going to be doomsday for them.
Because not only have we been worried about the defense, but we should have been worried earlier about, or excuse me, should have been not worried about the offense, but we should have been worried about the defense as well, because there has been some cases of fraud. Let's just call it what it is. There's been some cases of frauds. I'm willing to pull out the F word on them.
On Diggs, I'm assuming.
Yes, he is going to get hit with the first case of fraud.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? He's allowed 1,000 yards in receiving this season.
Yeah, so he's allowed the most. So he's allowed giving up over 1,000 yards in his coverage this season, most in the NFL. And then there's some other stats. This is from PFF_D Lee, but 45% of his receptions allowed go for first downs or touchdowns. And he has the second most open targets allowed in cover one, most yards allowed in cover one. So the narrative of him being a lockdown corner, he's a ball hawk, but he's not a lockdown corner. I think the interceptions hides a season that is actually historically bad.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone on Twitter call him the Jameis Winston of DBs, and I think that's the best way or the best comparison to make, because Jameis Winston, yeah, he's going to give you 30 touchdowns, but he's also going to give you 30 picks. So it's like, yeah, Trayvon Diggs is going to give up 1,000 yards, but he's going to come back with 10 interceptions. Like, he's ball hawk. He's like a free safety playing corner, it seems like.
And then another problem with Trayvon Diggs pulling wool over eyes is his son. Like, how are you going to hate a guy whose son is cute as shit, who was like the story of the entire Hard Knocks, a really bad Hard Knocks? He kind of saved it a little bit. Yeah. So how are you going to hate Trayvon Diggs? It's impossible, because then you're like, oh, you hate him? Oh, so you actually hate good fathers?
Yeah, you don't want to slander him because it feels like you're attacking his fatherhood.
Yeah, it's like an indictment on your morals, whether you like Trayvon Diggs or not.
Yeah, it's a really weird area to operate.
So there's that component of he's just likable as shit. I mean, we get into Joe Burrow later in the episode, but yeah, that's the problem with Diggs, is that you like him a lot. His son is super dope, super fun.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, his dad's been laying eggs on the field.
His dad's been giving up touchdowns and yards like it's nobody's business.
I mean, the Cardinals kind of missed on a major opportunity. First drive of the game, it was really early on, but that whole thing was set up because of an AJ Green deep bomb that was just one-on-one coverage.
Yeah,
with Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Diggs is, I think, kind of proving to be like, people have him in the defensive conversation. No.
Okay, people, we did,
but we're not the only people that did.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, though, is that you do have to look more into the numbers. It's because, I mean, there's so many safeties who probably get no love, in that we're still like, oh shit, that guy exists. Like he would be able to punt us walking down the street and we would be able to recognize him, who probably is a way better corner in coverage and locking guys up more than Trayvon Diggs, but he doesn't have interceptions. You know, it's kind of like the INTs are kind of, it reminds me of steals in basketball, to where James Harden like always led the league in steals or was always at the top, but would get burned to a crisp on defense every possession.
Yeah, it's like, you can, sure, if you lead the league in steals per game, but you're also allowing like 24 points per game to your opponent you're guarding, like, is that really, like, are you really a great defender?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like interceptions don't tell the whole story of a corner.
Mm-hmm. Because there's also the argument that if you don't have many interceptions, it's because nobody wants to throw your way. So it makes sense why Trayvon Diggs now has a lot of interceptions, because people want to throw his way.
Yeah. I'm starting to put the puzzle pieces together.
Mm-hmm. He's laying him out there for us. I'll be honest. There's a lot of evidence. It's no longer like some weird mystery, because Sunday night game against the Washington football team, the crazy blowout a couple weeks ago, where when their players are introducing themselves, they show below the PFF ranking, and Trayvon Diggs was number 76. And that's when like the first seed was planted, where I was like, because I do trust PFF. I do think they're not perfect, but they're pretty accurate.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, so that is a stunning that is stunning to see him that low, because you're like, wait, isn't that the guy with 10 interceptions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you know what? Maybe with Michael Gallup's injury, you move him over to offense.
We know he can catch the ball.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the complaint with DBs, is that they can't catch. That's why they moved on. They're the wide receivers who can't catch. So now you have a cornerback who can catch. So fuck it, maybe play him a little slot, see what he can do.
He can catch, he just can't really defend.
Mm-hmm. But he can catch.
Yes, he can.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from this game?
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty firm that we are worried about both teams pretty much. I don't come away with this thinking that both these teams are unstoppable come playoff time, that like the Packers or the Buccaneers should be really afraid of them.
Yeah, no, I don't leave this game thinking that either of these teams are going to pose a real threat to those big dogs at the top.
Mm-hmm. Which I feel like is the zeitgeist this entire season. Every team sucks. That's what I just walk away with after all these games. Everybody just sucks.
It's just who sucks less.
Mm-hmm. That's honestly what it's coming down to.
Pause.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's just multiple moments where you're like, wait, no, this team really doesn't feel like they have any chance. And we'll go into it for the remainder of the episode. But there's a lot of teams where they don't fall under the "what have you done for me lately" category, and they don't excel. Like they don't check that box on the list.
No, yeah, it's been a very sporadic season for a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, was that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now it's time to move on to Chiefs Bengals. Chiefs 31, Bengals 34. Huge win, the AFC North champs. But before we get into all of that, shout out Zach Taylor going for it on 4th and goal from like the half-yard line. Big balls play, works out. Both you and I absolutely love this.
Yeah, I think we've kind of been known as big, like go for it when it's the right time people, like John Harbaugh going for it for 2 or going for it on 4th down. Definitely love the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're also like big 4th down guys, but we're big read the room before going for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
And if you read the room, it says you either give Mahomes like a minute and a half, 75-ish yards around there to go to kick a field goal, or you either you have Mahomes start from his own like half-yard line to go 99 yards. I'd rather take Mahomes going 99 yards because your defense has played much better. And who knows, weird fuck shit could happen where Mahomes drops a snap.
Exactly. Yeah. You definitely rather have him backed up and in as much pressure as he could be. So I definitely call. And yeah, you never know what's going to happen when you're backed up on like the 1-yard line, and even on a 4th down. 4th downs are crazy. There could be penalties galore. You never know. So I love the call.
Mm-hmm. And it was penalties galore.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it worked out. But that's the thing, is that like 4th downs have to be done in good taste. And Zach Taylor had good taste there.
And that's kind of been the problem with Chargers coach. His name is
Staley.
Yeah, that's kind of been his issue. He hasn't really reading the room. He's just going for it on 4th down because that's kind of the mojo he's been given. So it was good to see the Bengals read the room, know the surroundings, and pick the right time.
Mm-hmm. And now it's also kind of gone and forgotten about with them going for it on 4th down, penalties, and then they end up winning it, is that they had Burrow running QB sneaks I believe it was 2nd and 3rd down. I remember it was back to back.
Yeah.
So huge shout out to Burrow, but it's also kind of confusing. Like right there, it's like you're killing your franchise guy. Like Burrow said he was fine after the game, but anytime you see a guy, a 2nd-year player who just came off of the ACL tear, limping on the sideline, oh shit, you kind of just get that, oh god, please no. And I think as soon as he grabbed his knee, I was just like, oh my god, no, please don't happen.
Yeah, you never want to see you never want to see that. And I mean, he's all right. He seems all right, but that's just a really scary moment. I can't even imagine what Bengals fans were thinking.
Yeah, so we'll get into everything Ja'Marr Chase, but Burrow's likability is reaching scary levels. I'll be honest, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago where he just has incredible moxie and he's very stoic. Nobody can smoke a cigar like Joe Burrow. I mean, you could combine like Tony Soprano, Tony Montana. It doesn't compare. He is the coolest cigar smoker, cooler than any mob boss.
I've been in his camp ever since he was smoking a cigar after he won the national championship with LSU. I've been a big Joe Burrow guy ever since that moment.
Dude, exactly. That one clip of him that's like 3 seconds long, smoking a cigar, spoke more about his football abilities than him playing football.
Exactly. It's just, he's such a baller, and that even off the field, he's just a cool guy. He's just a cool guy.
Yeah, it's this kind of weird thing where if you don't involve yourself in any bullshit and really good at playing football, the entire media will like you.
Yeah. No bullshit. Antonio Brown doesn't know what that is.
That was kind of this. That was the undirected hit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just the best. He's just the best. And you get both sides of him where it's like the cool guy smoking a cigar. And then you also see him with the SpongeBob shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just a man of the people. I feel like he's a Gen Zer.
Mm-hmm. But it's just in good taste too. Everything's in good fashion. And it's not him going over the top. See, that's the thing that I love the most about Joe Burrow. Everything is natural and almost feels accidental. Like he forgets he has cameras on him.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's forcing the the paparazzi or the pictures or the viral stuff. It just happens.
But there's thing is though, is that there's still a little bit of competition in him, where he obviously kind of took offense from what Wink said, the Ravens defensive coordinator, going into the game against the Ravens. He blew up, had 500 yards, and then he followed it up with like 450 plus yards. So he nearly racked up 1,000 yards in 2 games. So he does have that grittiness about him that makes everything come full circle.
Oh yeah, he's just an absolute hell of a quarterback. And when you play like that on the field, you can do whatever you want not whatever you want, but you can smoke cigars and you can wear SpongeBob shirts and no one's gonna complain.
So big shout out to the Bengals for winning the AFC North. Now it is time to discuss some Jamar Chase. So here's what I'm most confused of when it comes to the Chiefs trying to guard Jamar Chase. Why would you try and out-greedy him?
Yeah, pretty bad. Got mossed a second later, or like a couple plays later, if not even the very next play. And then Chase did it better than him and tweeted at him too. Makes it better.
Yeah, Charvarius Ward, come on, man. If you're gonna have to wait till like there's 3 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter. That's it. Because you want to make sure there's never going to be another play where Jamar Chase could return the greedy, because we're in a full out greedy war and Jamar Chase murdered him. It was Dunkirk.
Oh, absolutely. And he mossed him too.
Exactly. He just looked so bad. And once again, it's just like kind of accidentally, but just naturally making him look bad. Like that's the football we love, where somebody talks shit, you get back at him, do the same dance. You're the dance that you should own. Like if you go to LSU, you should be able to have full copyrights over the greedy. You did it on his face. Boom. That's why we love football. It's just those moments like that.
Yeah, we love their events, like the CJ Gardner-Johnson smiling up in Tom Brady's face. Like those are the moments we love. Or yeah. I love that moment.
Yeah, but in general, like as a fan, you love getting angry at CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Exactly.
You don't want to admit it, but you do enjoy the thrill of it, the entertainment value.
Oh yeah. Because what is the NFL without entertainment?
Yeah. So in this a little bit more on Jamar Chase, everybody has their crazy Jamar Chase stat. This one is what I found is more insane. I know you have a couple locked and loaded as well, but so he had 266 receiving yards today. That was the most for a wide receiver of any rookie wide receiver in history. And that he also had more receiving yards than Mahomes did passing yards.
That's wild. That is crazy, because it's not like Mahomes was bad. He just wasn't what we're used to. And yeah, not only did Jamar Chase have the single game record for a rookie, but now the single season passing or receiving yards record for a rookie, passing Justin Jefferson for both, if I'm not mistaken. So this young generation of receivers is insanely good.
And they still have two, like Tyler Boyd. He was still fine today. He was still solid. And then we also have T. Higgins. So that team is locked and loaded. So like those guys didn't have crazy days. T. Higgins went 3 for 62. Tyler Boyd went 4 for 36. But those are still crazy options. To have that be your 2 and 3, it's a legit 3-headed snake. And I am very, very scared for the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, and honestly, not just down the line, like this year. Like I would not want to go against that offense this season. I don't care what team I am in the AFC, what playoff team I am. I do not want to play against the Bengals offense in the playoffs.
And then also shout out their defense, because Kansas City, it looked like the way the game was going, that it would be all of them. It would just be a easy 40 burger. I mean, after they put up 28 in the first half, and it felt like as soon as you turned on red zone, they were already had like 14 points. It was 2 touchdowns right off the bat. But the Bengals defense really settled in.
Yeah, they did a good job. considering how the Chiefs offense has finally kicked it into gear. I know they were they were struggling early on in the year, and they really did a good job of keeping the receivers at bay. I mean, McCole Hardman had 53 yards, but it was on one catch. And the next highest was Tyreek with 40 yards on 6 catches. So props to their corners, despite maybe hitting the greedy a little too early.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
hit the greedy too early. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the Chiefs offense, they only had 112 yards in the second half, and Tyreek never caught a first down in the second half as well. So that once again, this is a team that can make adjustments, and you're making adjustments against a very, very potent offense. So respect to the Bengals, man.
Yeah, they really proved themselves to be contenders, honestly. I
Mhm.
think they're contenders at least.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how it's looking. That's how it's looking. And there's a chance that they could sneak in with the to be able to get the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, and just one other thing, like I still do think, and it kind of falls into the same Cowboy syndrome, I guess is what I'll call it. Joe Mixon's got to get going. Like
Mhm.
what this offense can be if Joe Mixon is firing is unholy.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to completely flip from a team we are very high on heading into the playoffs and a team that won't make the playoffs, the Miami Dolphins. So Miami Dolphins 3, Titans 34. Let's get into Dolphins talk first. This was sad. They never made it into the red zone.
I don't want to say I called it, but I kind of called it that this would be the downfall of the Dolphins this game, and they would get exposed for going on a win streak where they played terrible teams the whole time. So, yeah, I saw this coming, but they were such a fun story having won 7 in a row after 7 in a row that I was a little upset to see it come to an end.
Mhm. Yeah, I really should have seen this one coming as well.
It was just, I don't know, Tennessee so methodical in the way they play that I feel like they were just destined to win and handily as well.
Mhm. So I think where I went wrong with the Dolphins was I was considering Tua in a dome versus last week we played against the Saints where he looked was okay, somewhat solid, but he was in a dome. And now he was outside. If Tua played in a dome his entire life or in dry weather, he'd be fine. But in the rain, so many mistakes. I mean, he threw a ball backwards.
He had a QBR of 8.
And to put in some perspective, Mike Gesicki, who had an incompletion on a gadget play, his QBR was more than half as good as Tua's.
Yeah. Mike Gesicki had a 4.2 QBR. So it was just all around a pretty poor game. But like you said, if he's just in a dome, he should go to the Saints, play half his games in a dome, and he'll quarterback.
Because there's a lot of people making excuses saying, oh, it was the weather, it was the weather. Well, it's a good thing football isn't played during the most wet times during the year.
Exactly. Yeah. And snow. I mean, there was snow at the Bills game.
Yeah, there's, if he was if football was played in the summer, then yeah, I think he'd be absolutely fine. Well, football is played during the fall and the winter. This is a sport that's known for having to sustain the worst weather conditions America has to offer.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn to adapt to the elements like the greats have done, like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees. Those guys adapt to the weather, and that's what the quarterbacks are going to have to do is adapt to the weather. Be able to play in the rain without throwing a ball backwards and having a QBR of 8.
Because it's like you can make up, okay, if you're like trying to back up Tua and saying that, oh, there's guys dropping balls, the offensive line, that makes sense. I agree the offensive line is not great, and you do see some drops here and there. But to say it's the weather makes no sense.
Yeah, that's not a fair argument, I don't think.
Mhm. No, it's not. So there's reasons why we should give Tua a little bit of a break. But the way like the QB turnover goes in the NFL, I mean, it feels like if Tua isn't good next year, then that'll be it for him. It's just crazy how fast it is now.
Yeah.
Also, they didn't do him any favors wanting to trade for Deshaun Watson as well.
No, that's not good for the confidence. But yeah, it's almost like QBs are like like a carousel. You come in, if you're not good in 2 or 3 years, they move on to the next one.
Mhm.
It's a really quick turnaround for QB. So yeah, Tua is very much on the clock.
Mhm. And also, I just will never. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust the lefty quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not ideal.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tua seems like a cool guy. I'd have a beer with him. I don't think he'd have a beer with me, but he seems fun. Like, I
He
don't think
seems
there's a
like a
lot of
likable
like,
dude.
yeah, he's just like, I don't think there's really attitude issues or issues with him not working hard enough. I just don't think he's good.
Yeah, he's just probably not good enough.
Mhm. And then now on to the Titans. The Titans are really good. Okay. It's like every time they win a game, I'll just say, oh, it was the other team. It was the other team. It was the other team. At this point, I'm done. I'm done. I have been shot 1,000 times now, and I'm bleeding out. And I would just like to say the Titans are good.
They are good. And what they did was they adapted to the weather. They had 40 carries as a team, 198 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. And I mean, I know 132 of them came from Foreman himself, but Hilliard had a nice game, even broke off one long run. And they just, they know the Titans just, this is going to sound really stupid. They know how to win games. Like, obviously, they're 11-5, but I feel just they're a smart team. And I'm really high on the Titans, honestly.
Yeah, because you could get high on Mike Vrabel and what he's done with the offensive line and just one cohesive unit. Because the splits between when Derrick Henry was hurt versus when since then, you could argue that the Titans' run game has been a little bit better. So in the 8 games since he got hurt, week 8, so weeks 9 through 17, in 228 rush attempts, they've rushed for more yards and have averaged the same rush yards per attempt. So we were always waiting for the drop off to happen to where no more D. Henry. And now we're just going to watch Deontay Foreman and Hilliard completely fall on their face. And that'll be it for the Titans. That never happened. And you have to give tons of props to Mike Vrabel and the offensive line. It's a plug and play.
Yeah, they're definitely like a next man up mentality type team. And I can appreciate that about them. They don't uh ask for favor, or they don't ask for pity. They just kind of go out there and play no matter who's on the field, and it's clearly working. So shout out to them.
Mm-hmm. And as far as their defense goes as well, they've only been allowing 9 points per game in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, that their defense is very impressive. They're just well rounded. I think as a team, offense, defense, everything works.
So huge win for them. And who knows, maybe this team, if they're able to, if the cookie crumbles where the Titans sneak away with the number 1 seed and clinch the bye week for the AFC, well, then that could be huge because now you're still another week away from Derrick Henry possibly coming back.
Yeah, I think a bye would be really big for them. Really big for them.
Yeah, I think as far as like all the teams in contention, like with the Chiefs and the Bengals, the most like team who's needs the bye week more than any of those has to be the Titans.
Yeah, because if you have any chance of getting Henry back, you want the highest like possibility that happens.
Mhm. Because we've learned enough now from Foreman where it could be like a 75-25 split, where if it's Foreman getting 25% of those carries, they'll be fine. Like Derrick Henry doesn't have to go like 90-10 or 95-5.
Yeah, definitely. Foreman is a very good option to have as a backup, and I guess as a starter right now. But yeah, if you don't want to run Foreman's legs straight into the ground right as he comes back, bad option to have.
No.
Or run Henry's legs in the ground.
Mhm. No, so they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I'm done saying that they're not good. The thing that made me say that they've not been good for so long now was the loss to the Jets and the loss when they lost to the Cardinals the first week of the year. Because I feel like I remember the games from the beginning, like the first week more than any other games that's been played between like week 2 and week 15.
Yeah, it's time to buy in on the Chargers. Or the Chargers. Jeez. I don't know what's going on. It's time to buy in on the Titans. Don't buy in on the Chargers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's any teams to not buy into, it'd be the Chargers.
It'd be the Chargers. Yeah. God, brain fart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they also lost to the Texans a couple weeks ago. So I was like, okay, that was going to be the one that confirms my take that they're not good. But they've proved me wrong, and it's about time I just own up.
Yeah, I think with them, it's just with that Texans loss, it's just teams have bad weeks. You know, you can't be perfect every week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now we are moving on to the final game of the week. Rams 20, Ravens 19. I want to start off with Ravens fans. So during the Ravens a 5-game losing streak, they've gone from 8-3 to 8-8. They have lost by a field goal or less 4 times.
That's brutal. Like, that is, talk about heartbreak city.
Well, like the part that makes me feel so bad about being a Ravens fan this year is you entered the year like we said it every single week, but they're the injury team. They're the team where it was like, oh my God, imagine what they'd be if they were healthy. But then to lose in the fashion that they have, it can't be anything worse than that. It can't. Like, that's enough to put you into a grave, I think, just from stress. I think you could just have like a stress-related heart attack.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just like when you lose by less than a field goal so many times, even less than a touchdown, I would say you think one play could have tipped the game. You know, if we didn't mess up this one time, or if we didn't do this one play, it's like it could change the outcome of every game. And you could go from 8-8 to maybe like 11-5 or 10-6. So I just really feel bad for the Ravens because they had the injuries and now all this.
Well, because we could easily point out 2 wins if and this was after Lamar was hurt, if they're able to hit on the 2-point conversions, they would be 10-6.
Yep.
And I think I found the play that would have brought them to 9-7. I think it was the Tyler Huntley interception towards the end of the first half, with like a minute and a half, minutes and change remaining, where he chucked it downfield. No, it was insanely how it was a wicked miscommunication. I mean, guys just running opposite sides of the ball, or opposite from where the ball was thrown. And then the Rams had a really nice return on it, and it set up a touchdown.
Yeah, anytime you get a long return, I think it was somewhere in like the 30 or 40 yard range. Anytime you get a return like that and set yourself up for a touchdown, that's great for you. But for the Ravens, it's like, oh my God, that was the worst case. Because sometimes when you heave a ball downfield and it's a pick and it's just downed right there, that's like just as good as a punt. But when it's returned for 35, 40 yards, it's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, say what you want about Matt Stafford, but when he throws deep bombs and they get picked, it's in triple coverage. So at least there's one guy there. It's a very crowded area, so there's not a lot of room to roam.
But yeah, that's definitely a play that you could look if you're the Ravens and think, man, if only that hadn't happened, if they hadn't returned that, or if that ball wasn't even thrown, we'd be 9-7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like we should just start going through some silver linings for the Ravens. So that's one of them, is that your 3 plays from, I mean, it's kind of bullshit that every game does not come down to one play, but you're technically, we'll just throw the technically, even though it's not technically, 3 plays from being, I don't know, 11-5. It would just be as bold to say that.
Yeah. So don't hang your hat too low, Ravens fans. You're not terrible. You're just unlucky, honestly.
And you know what? You should be very happy. Tyler Huntley really wasn't anything incredible today. He didn't throw for any touchdowns and threw for less than 200 yards, because now you don't have any QB controversy and you have a really good backup.
Yeah, you have a good backup. And yeah, like you said, he's never going to be good enough to beat out Lamar's job. But if Lamar gets hurt, you could probably win some games with him.
Because there's times where it's like, oh yeah, that is Tyler Huntley. I do have to do some double takes. It's like with Cooper Kupp and Skoenroke.
Yeah, you kind of just have to be like, you have to pinch yourself. You're like, oh wait, yeah, that's him.
So or Skoenroke. That's not a real name. That's like this. I love that he's the stunt double for Cooper Kupp. Same thing with like Blake Bell and Travis Kelce.
Yeah. It's you don't know the difference until you see his name on the jersey.
Because especially with Travis Kelce and Blake Bell, they're both 81, and the 7 and the 1 look pretty similar because the 7 is just a 1 with a hat.
Yeah, it makes it hard.
And then Cooper Kupp is 10. Skoenroke. Nope, said it wrong. It's Skoenroke. Jesus, what a weird, what a strange name. But yeah, so Skoenroke, he's number 18, and so that's just 0, but with another loop, and it's just like shrunk.
Yeah, so it's just easy to make that mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk some Rams. So shout out to the Rams. Looks like they might even be able to sneak away with the division. But as far as the playoffs go, because that's all the only thing that really matters after winning that game is, and you for sure are in the playoffs. They're at 12-4 right now, is Matt Stafford. So here's the thing. Matt Stafford wasn't good today, but nobody knows how to turn it on like Matt Stafford. He, in his final drive, went 6 of 6 for 70 yards.
Yeah, Matt Stafford was really good down the stretch, like you said. But the big thing with Matt Stafford is, like, I know he can win me games right now, and I know he's good enough right now, but, and I don't want to get too far down the road, but he's never won a playoff game.
But then he's also,
I don't know if, he's going to have to win, obviously, 4 games in a row for the Rams to win the Super Bowl. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting. He can't play the way he played Sunday and win the Super Bowl for the Rams.
Well, now the weird part with the Matt Stafford, the stat about him not winning any playoff games is he was on the goddamn Lions. And I will come to his defense just for the sake that the Lions were awful again this year. And they have always been historically known as the worst franchise in football. So it's not like he was on a team that had a lot of previous success, like before heading into it around that time period. It was like 2010, let's say like the Steelers, to where he took over, and that was a storied franchise where there's been a culture built of winning.
Yeah, but he also, and I know one receiver doesn't make a team, but he had one of the best receivers you could argue the league has ever seen.
But now we're
Calvin Johnson. So.
But now we're in a chicken and the egg, because you could say that Stafford made Calvin Johnson just as good.
Yeah,
he aided in it. I won't say he made him good, but he definitely did aid.
Yeah, it's a fair thing to say, well, if Matt Stafford wasn't on the Lions, he would have won playoff games. But it's still a question of, well, now he's got to do it, because this is the best team the Rams have had he's ever had, or at least for the Rams in a long time. This is the best team they've had. So he really needs to come up big for them.
And we will know for sure next week, because they have the perfect get-right game to end the season against the 49ers. This is, I mean, a pie-in-the-sky get-right game for the Rams, because the 49ers are competitive. The 49ers whooped their asses the first game of the year, or the first time they met up in that Monday night game.
Also, they've won like 5 in a row against the Rams, and I don't think Shanahan has ever lost to the Rams, if I'm remembering correctly. So this is big. This could be big for the Rams. They could, and I'm not just hopeful because the Saints need the Niners to lose for the Saints to make the playoffs, but this is a really good tune-up game, I feel like, for the Rams right before the playoffs start.
Because this is where we see if like the chemistry, if he's able to develop more chemistry with OBJ, because they did start to connect at the end of that drive. He had a couple catches and had the game-winning score. So now we can see, is what happens now. Are you able to build on it, or is that just going to be it?
Yeah, but yeah, OBJ's kind of finding his form. So yeah, they like, if he can really unlock for the playoffs, there's no telling where the Rams will go.
Mm-hmm. Well, because this is it. Like what we've complained about Stafford for a long time now is the reason why I will say he hasn't had any playoff wins is because of the other side of the ball. Well, the Rams do have that now with obviously Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey when he's not punching guys in the face, and Von Miller. Like Von Miller had an insane like little dip on his way to a sack that pretty much iced the game. That was a name I haven't heard of. So Stafford has all the tools there. I feel like, and it's kind of a now or never situation where all it takes about him will die in 2022.
Exactly. Yeah. This is it for him. If they don't win this year, he'll probably never win.
Mm-hmm. And as it should be, because just like we were saying about Tua, I think a similar thing applies to Matt Stafford, where it is now or never.
Mm-hmm. Now or never for Matt. And yeah, like Von Miller was awesome on that last possession for the Ravens. So their defense this is the best defense he's had, and this is probably the best offense he's had weapon wise. So yeah, it's like there's no.
Mm-hmm. And then fun little Cooper Kupp stat. He had 6 catches for 95 yards, and his receiving yards per game average went down.
God, that just shows how he's been the best receiver in the game this season. He's just been unbelievable.
See, I wish we had a telestrator from Madden for some of the routes Cooper Kupp runs.
Yeah, honestly, like he's just amazing. Like he came out of nowhere too. Like not out of nowhere, but like to come off an injury plagued season and do this is like unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. He's another guy where I don't know how teams should start to practice to tackle him. Is it you just send them out to a field and have them chase rabbits?
I think that would work.
Like, what do you do to prepare for Cooper Kupp? Because apparently nobody knows how to do anything when it comes to tackling against him. And everybody turns into a snail as soon as he crosses their path.
And watching film clearly doesn't work because I'm sure every team watches film on him. So
steroids. You know what we should do? I think we should just start giving everybody steroids. I think that'll help.
And yeah, if you play against the Rams that week, you get to take steroids.
Mm-hmm. It really is the only solution. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Rams game next week against the 49ers because it's just, are you for real? Here's a matchup where they're not a team that's going to be able to walk away with the NFC, but they're not a team that is nothing compared to the competition you'll see in the playoffs. So I think it's the perfect balance.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah. All right. So anything else? Oh, last thing. I thought it was hilarious. Odell punched a guy in the ass.
Yeah, that was funny.
I think we're getting a little too bold with all the peanut punches.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just don't punch people.
Well, I mean, the problem is with the peanut punches, though, is that if you don't hit it, then you're probably going to either get somebody's helmet or you're going to get some guy in the ass. But if it's Odell, then it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. So it was funny though. It was definitely really funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of OK Takes. If you would like to follow myself on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at MattWeiner20. If you'd like to follow Edward on his Instagram and Twitter, you can find him at Edward_Vento. If you'd like to follow OK Takes on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, find us at OK Takes Pod. That is OKAY Takes Pod. OKAY Takes Pod. Takes 2 seconds and will help us tremendously. And then make sure to watch the videos, the video episodes on YouTube if you would like. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a wonderful day.